Hello and welcome once again to the How Long to Beat podcast. As always, I am Rick and I'm joined by Paula.
Hello.
And Alex.
Hello.
Both of whom have let me down and completed nothing this week. So when we talk about the games we've beaten, it's just going to be me. Yeah, well, whatever. We'll talk about retirements. We'll talk about playing. This week's topic is fixing our favourite games. So we're going to have a little dig into how we could make a 10 out of 10 and 11 out of 10. And we've got some other ideas of how to jump off on this as well. So that's going to be fun, but not quite as fun as the cherry on the cake that is this episode. And that cherry goes by the name of How Long to Beat
The Game.
The Game.
Paula sounded like desperate. The game.
Did I do it right?
I swear I'm not falling behind. I was paying attention, I swear.
Oh dear. Right, I'm just going to jump straight in. I've beaten 5 games this week, albeit they are all relatively short ones, all games I was already playing. First game is Guacamelee 2. I'm toying between 9 and a 10 out of 10 for this. This was an excellent game, just off the bat. Really, really good and unsung Metroidvania. I think the problem is, and this is totally true for me as well, Guacamelee 1 came out and was amazing. And then Drinkbox Studios, the people who made it, was like, we're going to make a sequel. Everyone's like, cool. And then fucking crickets. It just didn't get any traction. And it's a real shame because it does quite a clever setup in terms of building off the first game where you conclusively defeated the baddie. And I've mentioned before, you're dealing with the Mexiverse. And the humor is very on the nose on that front. But the idea is that your timeline is the only one where you were successful. And one of the other timelines was so horrifically bad that dimensional rifts are bleeding their way through. So you have to go and fix it. You're the only Juan who can do it. The game is just pitched perfectly. For a game that's not really about the writing is spot on. It's not afraid to get quite difficult as well. There's a bad end and a good end. It kind of does the sort of Egovania, Castlevania type thing where there's an ending, and then if you do a few arbitrary things in the lead up to the final act, you can get a good ending. And it doesn't pull punches. It's not like Castlevania where it's find these 3 hidden things in the map. It's there are 3 or 4 real difficult combat gauntlets. And I like that. I like the healthy challenge. I like that it's an optional part at the side of it. I mean, there's another thing called the Proving Grounds that I just didn't even touch, but I imagine is a similar kind of thing again. The art's wonderful. The game mechanics are tuned really, really well. Arguably, it can be a little bit too unforgiving at times, particularly in the combat. But just as an overall package, wonderful, really, really good, and often goes for peanuts. I think I paid a couple of pounds for my copy on PSN, and I imagine this is on Switch. I'm not sure if it is, but I reckon this would be a really, really good Switch. And it's perfect game for Switch. It's 4 face buttons, 2 triggers. It's an easy dip in, dip out sort of game as well. I cannot recommend it highly enough, especially when we talk about Metroidvanias and it's a good Metroidvania but not good enough. I genuinely think this stands shoulder to shoulder with the best the genre has to offer, and I have no hesitation recommending it alongside the greats. So, I could keep gushing about this, but it is just really, really, really good. I suppose the other thing I'd say as well is maybe if we're being hypercritical, there's not a lot of extras to get. And other than the ending thing, there's not a massive incentive to tread off the beaten path. For a Metroidvania, it is a touch on the linear side, but I actually don't mind that. I found that in a way quite refreshing, certainly compared to a game that I'm currently playing. So that's a little bit of foreshadowing there. I think it's nice that although there are some minor things to be gotten, actually you're not in any way penalized for just cracking on and following the main story beats. So you say have you ever tried it? Yeah, Alex, did you play the first one?
Yeah, I did. So I beat the first one. I've been really meaning to play this one, honestly. But I don't know what it was. I just kept I don't know. I think you talking about it is actually probably might push me over the edge because I wasn't really sure. It's I don't know. You know when you get an indie game and you're like, oh yeah, I like that first one, but I don't know, is this one better or as good, or you're just there's nothing pushing you really to get into it. And so I just wasn't really sure about it because I was like, oh, it's probably more maybe more of the same. And while I liked Guacamelee, I didn't think Guacamelee was groundbreaking. You know what I mean? It was just like, oh, that was fun. But it felt to me a little I don't know. I just come off of playing Hollow Knight, I think, at the time, and Hollow Knight was so wide open and had so fewer like stopping points. You know what I mean? And like when you did get to a stopping point, it felt like it was like because you had explored, and it was like, no, that's just kind of something you want to come back to later. Whereas Guacamelee felt a little more like it just had those red blocks for like different things. So I loved it. For me, it was like an 8, like really solid, maybe more closer to a 9. But something just hadn't pushed me towards it. But it sounds like the second one, they just kind of upped the game comparatively even to the first.
For sure. And I totally relate to what you're saying in terms of the lack of a hook to pull you into it. Like, it's been sat on my hard drive for a couple of years. It's only because like I went through the games on my PS4 and was like, what order am I tackling these in? That I actually ended up starting it. But I'm so glad I did. And it definitely is a refinement on what was already quite a good system for the original Guacamelee, but it really does elevate everything it does a little bit more. Yeah, and I suppose, again, if you are nitpicking, you're right, it is all a little bit Fisher-Price in terms of the way everything's blocked off. But that's also built into the systems in the sense that you get 4 attack moves, blue, green, yellow, red. They correspond to shields that the enemies will put up, but they also correspond to certain blocks that you can destroy with them and certain traversal elements as well. So it is kind of tied in that sense. Yeah, it's a great package overall. And if I have spurred you to try it, then I would be really, really happy. Next game I completed, Rhapsody, is a game that I described on the Discord as a fine TM plus. It's like, mechanically, this game is the definition of fine. But there's just something about the story and the charm and everything that's built up around it that does just give it a little bit extra. It feels very much like playing a Saturday morning cartoon. Like the main antagonists have a real proper Team Rocket vibe in the sense that they're sort of constantly bickering amongst each other and then they just get around to it and do the big bad thing. And they're not really bad at heart. They're just misguided. And it's, especially for the time, quite a novel setup, as like playing a young peasant girl, like trying to woo the prince, and then the prince gets kidnapped and you have to go to save him, and you find yourself on this journey and you become the woman you're always supposed to be. Like, it's different. Is the gameplay good enough? Not really. Like, playing this has made me kind of want to go and play the DS release, because this is a PlayStation RPG originally. I played a Switch port that came as a 2-pack with Lapichal Ragnarok. In the interim, NIS completely remade the game for DS, completely redid the combat, made it standard turn-based fare instead of the quasi grid-based strategy RPG that the original had. If I remember correctly, there were also a couple of like game-breaking bugs they let slip in. Obviously, in the DS age, that's not the kind of thing you could just patch out day one. That's kind of stuck on the cartridge. So that's an interesting, fascinating one for me, having played this. But to bring this back around, the combat has a grid system. The grid system is effectively pointless. It has a monster catching system, but that's parallel to what are called puppets, which are characters who you can control with your horn. The monsters, when they die, they go away forever. The puppets, when they die, you can revive them. And the puppets get so powerful and the combat is so easy that there's no incentive to catch monsters ever. Plus, the system's never actually explained to you. And I think that maybe is an exemplar for a lot of the problems with Rhapsody. There's far too many systems. Far too many of them are completely superfluous. The game doesn't have any kind of challenge to warrant exploring them. And even if it did, it doesn't even attempt to explain the majority of them. All of that said, I did have an okay time with this one. It's really, really short. Like, I sought out a little bit of extra content, still beat it in under 9 hours. The lack of challenge wasn't necessarily a problem because it meant that the story got the chance to shine through. There wasn't anything getting in its way, any more than it had to anyway. The dungeon design is fucking awful, I will say. They literally used the same textures for every single dungeon and just put like a the old 3D glasses with like blue and red lenses.
Yeah.
Those, but also there's like a green one and a light like cream one. It's not good. And if anyone's listening to this, and I know friend of the podcast, Matt, was thinking about playing this one, the only way I would recommend playing this is with the maps that are available on Neofax, because they make the game bearable. I couldn't imagine playing this without them. And I have no shame of admitting that I used them, because I put about as much effort into navigating those dungeons as the designers did into making them. So one of those where there's a lot of negatives, but like my overall impression is quite positive. I did enjoy it. I did have a good time-ish. I can't really recommend it per se.
Right.
But I think there are things that are worth experiencing within it. I kind of just want to go back and say the same thing again. I always find this with these ones that like it's bad, but it's also good, but it's also kind of terrible. But here are the redeeming qualities, but also don't, but maybe do.
I know what you mean. It's one of those games where it's like, it's not the worst thing that's ever existed, but it's not great.
For everything that it does good,
you could be playing instead.
Yes, and I think that's the bottom line. I think almost like the Metroidvania thing, like there's so many good RPGs. Like even if you're looking for something short, go play Jack Move, go play Cosmic Star Heroine. If you're looking for something cutesy and fun, like there's a million other games in different genres that will give you that kind of experience over a shorter length of time. You can go and find visual novels that are relatively short that will give you that kind of story without pretending to need a combat system. There is no USP. There is no specific thing where it's like, for this reason, you have to go and play this game. Other than as an artifact of history and the fact that I got it in a double pack for free with the game that I actually wanted from that pack, I probably wouldn't have bothered either. But there you go. Next one, game 3 of 5. And this was a co-op playthrough with my girlfriend. This is the Ninja Saviors, Return of the Warriors. One of the Natsume, like, classic remake stroke remaster jobs. So as I understand it, this was an old arcade game. It got ported to PS4 and Switch and PC. I bought a physical copy that comes with a really nice printed manual. Remember those? It's very arcade. Like, it's about an hour and a half of content. There's 8 stages. There's a degree of asset reuse in terms of the enemies, but there is a real creative spark to the way that it's all set up. And having no experience with the original, it's hard to say how much of that has been added ex post facto. But the fact remains that the package is really, really good. The pixel art is fantastic. The gameplay is the perfect balance of tight and chaotic. There are some enemies that are quite cheap. There are some bosses that are quite cheap, but it's an arcade game, what you expect. It sort of is true to its genre. I'll be interested to go back and play it single player at some point, because what this does that a lot of games don't is it gives you in co-op a shared life bar and a shared special meter. So what that means is there's a certain degree of coordination of, I need to use this special to counter this kind of enemy, or we need to hold off on specials because we need our area clearing move. And also, like, we need to avoid getting hit by certain attacks because that will just wipe the entire special meter out. And also, like, there's a certain element of sort of friendly competition where if one player is not holding up their end, you both die, and then you have to start the level again. It's good. I did enjoy it a lot. It scratched that arcade itch that I found more and more creeping in since I've played a few of those games. And if it's the kind of experience you're looking for, this is a really good, really modern, friendly, or a really good example of this that is friendly to modern sensibilities. Let's put it that way. It's also worth noting, I don't know how many characters there are in the game, but I know for a fact that they've expanded the roster. So, albeit maybe if you don't die as much as we did, you can maybe complete a run in 60 to 90 minutes. There is a lot of replay value because each character plays vastly differently. So the 2 we played as are the ninja, who is a big hulking brute who has a ground dash but like almost no aerial game. And what was the female character called? A female ninja, anyway, who is very, very focused on aerial, but can get like battered about like nobody's business at any kind of close quarters. The game also, I should say, has a really, really cool grappling mechanic where if you walk into an enemy, you'll just pick them up. But also, if you're like too aggressive with that, they'll pick you up. And so there's this interesting risk reward of, do I lead with a punch or do I walk in and see if I can grab them first, kind of thing. Yeah, really, really positive on this one. I think it's well worth a look if that's what you are looking for. Yeah, 2 to go. Mighty Switch Force 2 is the penultimate of my completions. Not as good as Mighty Switch Force 1. So these are games developed by WayForward. They are puzzle platformers. Short and sweet, they're eShop exclusives. Each one has, I think, 16 levels in them. Half of the value comes from completing the level, which involves capturing 5 escaped people and then reaching an exit point. The other half comes from doing all of that in a really aggressively tight par time, which, fuck that, personally. Like, I just can't be bothered. So I played these games to, like, complete the puzzle and get to the end of the level. That's the beginning and the end of it. What the second game does, interestingly, the first game is like you as a policewoman capturing escaped prisoners. The second game is essentially a palette swap in a lot of ways. So it makes you a firefighter capturing people stuck in burning places. What that means is instead of a straight firing pistol, you have this really weird fire hose that doesn't shoot straight, that doesn't shoot at a specific angle. It kind of spurts up and spurts down, and it makes it really, really fucking hard to control. And that is something that you find with all of the changes they made to the sequel. Everything is kind of to make the game a little bit worse overall, which is a shame. And it is a little bit worse. It's not a lot worse. Like, this is still a fun couple of hours of playing. But I think it's only really for people who played the first one and desperately need to scratch that itch. Or people like myself who, with the impending eShop closure, had bought some games they might otherwise have bought with eShop credit that they had lying around. So you can get this as like a package on Steam now. I think it comes with the first 2 Switch Force games. There are 2 like spin-offs. I think the first one like is the one to play and then see how you feel about the others. But if you can get the package on a sale, it's worth checking out. It's not the kind of thing that's going to change anyone's mind. So like for yourself, Alex, I wouldn't imagine that puzzle platforming is going to be something that this would change your mind on. Like, it's an okay puzzle platformer. There's a fun sort of block switching foreground background mechanic. The 3D is good enough, but at its core, it's a pretty by the numbers puzzle platformer.
Yeah, puzzle platformers have always been hit or miss for me. You know,
no,
and it doesn't interesting enough.
No, and if it wasn't so short and I didn't already own it and I hadn't already gotten halfway through by the time it's one of those like, I'm close enough, I'll finish it.
No,
but
I get what you mean.
I wasn't super enthusiastic by the end either. Yeah. And then the last game, this is a fun little one on mobile called Automatoys. I think I touched on it briefly last time. I honestly don't remember. It's like little Rube Goldberg-esque machines that you have to get the ball from the start of to the end of. It's just a little time waster on mobile. Like, it's not a difficult game. There is a degree of challenge. There's certain bits that need timing and judging properly. I also kind of like the business model. Like, there's 12 levels. You get the first 3 for free. You pay £2.50 and you get all the rest. Nice. And I was happy to pay that and just get the game. Fun little one. Easy recommend on the basis that we all have phones. Lol. And don't you all? And you get a quarter of the game for free. And if you have your fill there, just delete it. Like, it's go and check it out. Go and give it a try. It's made with pure joy, and you can tell that playing it. Like, it's all clean lines. The balls have got little happy faces on them. There's such a joy in motion about this game, and I really liked poking through it. Yeah, so that's me. And no gacha mechanics, so automatically better than where's it gone? Guardian Tales.
I knew that was coming.
Had to do it.
Well, I'll give you a brief momentary break as we talk about retirements, because I have one to the sad Sorry, Uwe, if you're listening. Crusader Kings 3. I've retired, and honestly, this is kind of the same story as when I was playing Civilization 6. It's just too much, and like I also think it was the wrong time for me to try this game, because like I mentioned last week, I've been getting back into the Middle Earth strategy battle game, and like it's a very streamlined game, but there are a lot of things to learn, right? And like I only have so much space for complicated games in my brain right now.
Is it like that Simpsons bit where he like learns to make wine and he forgets how to drive?
Yes, exactly it. Like I was like, oh bro, no, there's just no fucking way I could. Because also like, and to be fair to Crusader Kings 3, which I think it does something a little bit maybe better than Civ does, wherein I think you can kind of play that game and still have fun even if you've got no fucking clue what you're doing. But it does feel a little dispiriting, because you're just like, I don't understand, like, what are these little buildings that I'm making in all these places? Like, what kind of resources should I be going for? What's going on? I mean, how do I make that happen? Oh, let me go pull up the wiki guide. As you unscroll like 3,000 pages of like how to play the game, and then go watch 13 hours of, new to the game tutorials from, good players who are just like explaining it to you in hour-long videos, because that's how much it takes. Which, like, again, it's like it's both a good thing and a bad thing, right? Because, like, first off, it's awesome that this game is so complex, right? And so, like, varied and long. That's really cool, because not a lot of freaking, companies would make games this sort of intricate. But that's sort of like, it's the good and the bad, right? It's so intricate. Thus, I can't get the fucking into it because it's so intricate. And unless you're like, it's like, it's kind of a lose-lose situation where like, or a win-lose, I guess. Because like for those who it really works, it's going to really work. But it's going to exclude so many people. And I don't know I don't think there's anything you can do about that, There's no solution to this. Like, they made a pretty decent tutorial, I think. It was pretty fun, but then also, like, when you play a tutorial and you think you know how to play the game?
Then you enter the game and you're like, I do not know how to play the game.
Yeah, because, like, the tutorial, what they do, I think, is very smart, because they essentially set you up in Ireland, and, like, the tutorial is just a game. Right? And they give you lots of, like, they set you up for the first, like, few turns. But then when they let you loose, you're like, oh no. Now what? Because you just have no idea what to do now. Because the thing in Crusader Kings 3 that makes it so awesome is that it's very open, right? And really, you're just trying to kind of maintain your dynasty, but there's so much you can do. So what becomes challenging is understanding what you should be doing, right? Like, okay, well, I have a turn, so what should I be doing in this turn? And the game is pretty good at giving you some hints. Like, it's like, oh, try this. But eventually, there's just nothing for you to do except maybe fast forward time. But then you're a little concerned, because you're like, okay, am I skipping something? Right? Like, you're like, am I not doing something I should be doing? Like, am I fucking myself over? And I don't know. It just made me very like, shit. So yeah, like, I do think this game, unlike Civ 6, is a game that I probably will come back to someday. Mostly because of that Lord of the Rings mod that they've made for it, which, like, I'm a sucker for any of that shit. And, like, it seems like it's just getting better and better and better. So, like, I could envision myself someday coming back just to try that out. And, like, honestly, maybe that familiar lore and skin will, like, make it more digestible to me, But in the meantime, I'm just kind of like, this game's too much. It's just too much. But I enjoyed all the murdering, backstabbing, and training of my sires. That was fun. But other than that, I'm done. Paula, I think you'd like this game a lot, actually. I think you'd very much enjoy it, because it's like, it's a real mix of the intensity of Age of Empires and the like slow paceness of Civ 6, because it has an auto fast forward where like you can increase time like a lot so that the game just goes like fast forwards until there's a decision for you to make, which I think is like a really neat compromise. Whereas, you play Civ 6 and you're just kind of like, fuck,
waiting forever.
Oh my god! And then especially when there's people.
Dislike the Civilization 6 because of that. Like, I need a game that has like something that's quick paced, like Age of Empires, where you have to make decisions on the fly. Because if I have to sit down and play Civ 6, I'd rather just not play anything ever again, because it just doesn't hold my attention too well.
No.
So anything that is turn-based, like grand strategy turn-based, is a hit or miss for me.
Yeah, and that's like I'm with you there too. Like I'm in that same boat, and that's why I find this game interesting, because of the fact that it kind of it somehow like manages to like make its cake and eat it too, or get its whatever that expression is. What's that expression? Bake your cake and eat it too.
Have its cake and eat it.
Yeah.
Have its cake and eat it too. Yeah, exactly. Where it's like it's grand strategy and it can go very slowly and you could make it, but it's not even like really in turns. Like it kind of is, but like at the same time, you can just fast forward so quickly that you feel like you're making real time decisions, which I think is like a really because like time just constantly moves forward in it. It's not going on that like you basically you can pause and unpause time. That's how it works, right? So like decisions come up and then you can make those decisions and then you can just like unpause time and keep going, or you can just let time go while you make decisions, which I wouldn't recommend, but you can do that. So it just kind of feels like more accessible in that sense, because again, and I suppose too, like for argument's sake, Civ 6 is, I think, a little more geared towards play with others, which that slow turn based gameplay makes sense in that world. Whereas Crusader Kings 3 is clearly meant to be enjoyed on your own. And so, but then at the same time, it's like, well, okay, like even if, anyway, I don't know. I just have issues with Civ 6 because, again, you could like skip the turns, but then you have to see what your enemy's doing, like, especially if they're like in your area. So you're just like, all right, I'm going to watch all their little horses move over here. And then let's watch those horses move over here. And then 25 more turns before my temple's built. Okay. You're just like, fuck, losing your mind, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's it for me for Crusader Kings 3. Great game. Like, it's probably like a 10 out of 10 game. Like, honestly, like for the amount of shit in there, it's just unfortunately I can't access it. Rick, tell me about poor Donkey Kong Country. I mean, I think I know why this is retired, but yeah.
I hope the audience is sick of my voice because I've got 4 retirements.
I got lots to talk about with all of them, though. So let's go.
Yeah, by all means. So, Donkey Kong Country is this month's game of the month. It's also my first retirement of this episode. I just couldn't get on with it. Like, I found the physics not quite right. The graphics look phenomenal for the time, but still like a little bit Uncanny Valley-y. Like, it didn't look quite right, and it threw me off a little bit. It was a bit weird. Just wasn't working for me, like, as a package. I also have to say I find like the life system, to the extent that it has one, a bit annoying, in the sense that you have a character traipsing around and then you don't, and then you're dead.
Welcome to DKC. Yeah, it's a hard game. No, like, listen, I get it. Like, it's quite a challenging game. I grew up playing this one on the Game Boy Color, and like, it was hard as fuck. It took me years to beat this game as a kid. And
that's the GBC version. My God, I dread to think how little like foresight you have on that screen.
You know what? I have to say they were pretty good about it. Like, I really think that one is like quite playable because they were able to like zoom the camera out when needed to. So I don't know. But then again, that could just be me. Like, I also played Super Mario Brothers, the first one on the GBC, right? Like, I played a lot of these platformers with like limited view windows, and somehow I was okay. But I would agree, the SNES version is the way to do it. If you're gonna do it, that's the way. And safe states, because when you get to the minecarts, bro. Actually, you know what? That's probably why the minecarts fucking killed me, because I couldn't see what I was going to land on. So
yeah, you'd have to memorize it.
I did. I literally had the minecart levels memorized. I knew exactly what it was coming, and it was like I had like rhythmic button presses hit. I was like, now, wait, wait, now. Like that's how that game went for me, and I loved the shit out of it. Like the music is incredible, but it's also a platformer that is, I think, of an era, and also requires that you kind of have nothing else that you need to get done. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's pretty fair.
Yeah, like if you have other games around, you're probably not sticking around with this one. Like it's just not happening unless you've got some nostalgia. But if you're like younger and you don't have much, this game is going to be like the fucking best shit you've played in a long time, which is an issue with a lot of games, I think, from the 90s in general, right? Like there is that.
And I think it's the same as like my takeaway with Super Mario World. Like, if I played this game when it came out, I probably would think it was the best thing ever to be made ever, or like, ranking up there.
Yeah.
Coming to it fresh in 22, having not particularly liked Donkey Kong Country Returns, or not really liked the difficulty curve of that, let's say. Like, I thought the game was fine. This was never really going to be for me. I did try and give it a fair shake, but I realized very, very quickly that it wasn't the one. More disappointing for me personally, it's my second retirement, and for you as well, I imagine, the remake of Resident Evil 2.
Yeah.
In the year of our Lord 2020, which is when this game came out, I think, 8-box inventory systems shouldn't be a thing.
Oh,
and if they should, let me fucking finish.
I'll let you finish, but you're wrong. But keep going.
If they should, I should be able to reload my gun with ammunition that I find without having to open a fucking inventory slot up first. That's not good design. That's fucking dumb.
Wait, what? What couldn't you do?
I couldn't. So I got into a situation where I had a gun, single bullet left, like two narrative like puzzle items in my inventory that you can't drop because you can't put an item down and come back to it later. If you drop it, it's gone forever because that's how reality works. And I had full inventory.
Yeah.
1 bullet in the gun, 10 bullets of ammunition on the side. No, you can't put them in the gun. You have to put them in a slot first.
Yeah. Oh, in the side you're talking about. Yeah. Yeah.
Go on, defend that. Yeah.
Oh, I can defend it. That's the whole point of this game. It's inventory management. It's survival horror. You have to be planning out your moves ahead of time. And in particular, you have to be making sure that you're using what you got. And you got to find your attaché case upgrades.
I would like to quote a host on this podcast from like ages ago. Where's it gone?
You're talking about the Divinity Original Sin. The issue is
No. I'm here to talk about the title of episode 27 of this here podcast. I'm not here to sort inventory.
I know, that's Divinity Original Sin. I know exactly what you're talking about.
I don't care. I'm not here to sort in Resident Evil either.
Yeah, no, I get you. The issue with like Divinity, at least for me, like that was one where you get so many items that you're constantly just trying to get rid of shit, which is like really annoying. Like there's no mechanic to it, right? It's just too much stuff. Whereas in this one, the main kind of point with the game is that you're constantly on the back end. You can't hog resources. You got to be using your resources as you go along.
Right. Which is fair if I could put things down and come back to them. That one thing, and as an addendum, if I could put the bullets in my gun without having to clear an inventory slot first, those things would make it okay.
Can't you do that with the combine button?
Only if it's already in your inventory.
Only if it's
already unless I was being really dense.
Had you combined all your...
Tell me
I'm
the
pretty sure you
comments
can.
if I'm wrong.
I've done it before where you just combine it with... you have to combine and then you click it on the thing and it pops in. But you know what your problem is that if you don't have enough space within your gun, right? So that's also the question, like how many bullets you can hold within the gun. Because usually you could do it if you have enough space and then it wouldn't create leftover. Because the problem is that, they're saying like, well, you can't just like load it up and then have leftover that you discard. It's like, well, that's not really, they're like, no, you got to be able to place it in. So then the question is, had you like combined all your herbs and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, you had all your...
I'd stacked those away. So I had 8 items in my inventory. There's a stretch right about an hour in when you're in the police station and searching around where you pick up, minor spoilers, bolt cutters. And then there's like the hand that goes on the statue. and then there's a wheel that you need to turn a thing, and then there's like another key item. That's already 4 slots if you had room for more.
Yeah, you got to start going to use your key items.
I hadn't found the bits to use them yet. It's silly. If I could put it down and come back to it, that'd be fine. But once you've picked it up, you're not allowed to drop it ever until you've used it.
Yeah, again, that's the survival horror element. I mean, I understand not liking it.
That's fine. I'm not about it.
I get it. I totally get it. But that's kind of the whole game. Remember, I played an entire game about sorting inventory. Safe room is fine. Is the whole thing.
But it's not for me. So the core game was okay. I was just gonna say like it wasn't really working for me as a whole anyway. Like it was fine, but yeah.
Yeah, I understand disliking the inventory management, but like it is like directly built into the design of the game and like of the gameplay. Like that's like the chief kind of point of it. So like at the point you've gotten to, right, where you're like, oh shoot, I can't reload that. There's that thing where it goes like, okay, so I leave my ammo here and I have to clearly go solve some puzzles, right? Because now you have enough material, you gotta start getting rid of them. Because part of the like reason that they do this, at least part of the design philosophy within it, is that as you pick up key items, they don't want you to ignore your key items, right? Like you've got these key items and they're taking up inventory space. So now you've got to figure out, how do I use these key items and what puzzles do they unlock? And then you can free up more space within your inventory and get more space for it as well. Because you can eventually get more and more space for your inventory slots. So it's like, I don't know. For me, I feel like it all feeds into each other. Now, I understand just not liking that kind of gameplay. That's fine. But I think it's very justified within Resident Evil as to why they do this, right? Like it's not just like, when they're updating it, they could have just gotten rid of it, but there is like a reason why you maintain that smaller amount of inventory, because it's not trying to be like, ooh, you're a perfect action star. It's like, no, you're in a difficult situation and you have a limited amount of resources. Now, they do break it later. If you beat the game and stuff, they can give you shit to just go hog wild, right? And that's sort of like what I kind of love Resident Evil, is that they let you have your cake and eat it too. So you got to play through intended way, but then you can just kind of fuck around when you finish it, because they can give you unlimited ammo and stuff for weapons and whatnot. But I don't know.
I hear all of that. No, thank you.
And that's fair. Like I said, sometimes you're just not gonna like it.
I think my frustration, recognizing that it's an intentional design choice, my frustration is that there isn't the scope for you to say, okay, fair enough, I've bitten off more than I can chew here. Let me put a couple of these items down. Even if it wants to break the logic and say you can't lose these forever.
You do know about the storage chests, right?
I do, but that's all well and good if you're right by a storage test. Mm-hmm. If you've overextended yourself and you can't get back to the storage chest, right, but then that's no good if you then die and you've got to just do the whole fucking thing again. But if you say, okay, I chalk this up, even if Olive Branch, I would accept if they said, well, no, look, like, we don't want you to lose where you've put this item down because you kind of soft lock yourself out of the game.
Yeah.
If you drop this key item, it goes back to where it originally found. I could stomach that.
Yeah,
what I can't stomach is that, no, tough shit. You've got like 3 key items in that you can't drop and other things that like you're probably going to need. Yeah, it just doesn't work for me. I didn't enjoy it. I wasn't having fun.
Yeah, again, I totally get what you're saying. But again, it's forcing you to make that choice. Drop some health, get your ammo, or go back, right? And that's what I think I love about the series, that you have to make choices because you never get to play optimally within a Resident Evil game. You have to be deciding what's going to work for you, and you're going to get stuck in tough choices where you have to do things that you're like, fuck, no, I wish I could just do this. And it's like, sorry, but you can't. So anyway, again, I
just only saw the game, which is what I ended up doing. Yeah.
And that's fine. But I don't know. I fucking love that game. That game for me is like one of the best games ever made, especially that remake. Like, fuck, man.
And I definitely recognize the quality of the game. It's just not for me.
Yeah, that's fine.
Where's the agenda gone? I need to go back to our show notes because I've gone searching. Yeah, and this is very much a soft retire. I was having fun with this. I just wasn't making the time for it. I think, looking at my playing and looking at my beaten, it's a lot of shorter, to put it kindly, a bit more mindless games. And that's where I'm at the moment. So A Link to the Past is one I want to come back to when I can really give it a bit more mind share, a bit more time. Also worth saying, like, I'm playing this on an original cartridge on original hardware, I don't massively trust the save feature because I used it once and it shunted me to the start of a dungeon, and that is kind of a problem because there's a degree of hesitancy to, if I go and play this, how much progress am I going to lose if I can't come back to it, or if I put it to sleep and it runs out battery before I come back to it, because it has got a sleep function in that game. But all of those things, it's all not roadblocks, but it's all let's go with that. It's roadblocks. It's barriers to me like wanting to go and play the game.
I think you're right though. I forgot about that. Like I'm pretty sure its save system is just beginning of dungeon instead of like like it doesn't have like a save in a room feature, which is really fucking annoying.
And so the silly thing is, what I'm probably going to end up doing is downloading a ROM.
Yeah, whatever.
I'm playing it on my flash cart where I can save state instead of like playing on original hardware because of the limit of said hardware. Anyway,
isn't this one on Switch?
I will be coming back to that.
It's on Switch.
It's on Switch too.
It is on the NSO.
Yeah, but then I'd have to pay for Nintendo's shitty online service.
Oh,
I already
you don't have
own.
That, okay.
No, no, fuck no.
I just have it shared
already
with
own
a bunch of friends, so it's like a couple bucks. Just nice.
I already own what are they called? Not the EverDrive, the other one. Easy Flash.
Yeah. Oh,
Easy Flash. Yeah, I already own one of those. I have a nice GBA with a backlit screen on it. So no, I'm not paying Nintendo money to loan a ROM. When I own the cartridge, I can just download a copy of the ROM.
Yeah, Easy Flash and I have a bad history, but
I remember. I mean, mine's been good to me.
Yeah, I do.
Touch wood.
Fucking corrupted so much shit for me. But anyway, it's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine.
We're saying big ones have got like, I forget what it is. This is such a tangent, but they've got something different about them that's supposed to eliminate any risk of the issue that you've had, like the definitive. Anyway,
what does?
Last
I had their nice new one. They're full of shit, man. They tell you that shit. They're full of shit. They say that because who the fuck is gonna call them on that shit, right? Like, what are you gonna fucking do? Do a lawsuit against the guy selling basically illegal shit? Fuck off, right? Like, it's like they're not gonna like. There's nothing you could do. They say, "Oh, it won't lose it," but then they say, "Like, it's your fault," and you're like, "Okay, thanks," right? Because then you got a problem, right? Because like, if you do want to raise issue with them, it's like, well, what were you doing with it? And it's like, oh, I was playing a bunch of illegal games and your fucking shit didn't work. And then like, well, you know what I mean, right? I don't have a single leg to stand on. Like, they're just like, oh no, our system's for people who legally remove their ROMs and put them onto this thing.
It's for playing homebrew.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, fuck. Like, they can say whatever they want and no one can touch them. Because like, it doesn't fucking matter. How do you test it? They can just test it with shit that's like, anyway, fuck. Drives me nuts. But no, they're cheaper for a reason. And it's fine. Like, fine, I get it. But they are cheaper for a reason. EverDrive, never done me wrong.
Metal Slug 3D, which is my final retirement. There's the makings of a good game in this. This being a Japan only. I said that quite weirdly. This being a Japan only. 3D third-person shooter spin-off of the Metal Slug franchise. It kind of controls like garbage, which isn't ideal. It's pretty clunky, and it's coming up against a really, really refined counterpart, and it never is going to measure up. I emulated this. I played it for a little bit. All the dialogue is voiced in English, even though most of the menus are still in Japanese. It's very, very playable. But then from a mechanical standpoint, it's actually not very playable. And I also don't know if this is emulation or this was me, but like, I couldn't get the Metal Slug itself to control properly. It was only turning in one direction. So I was having to turn left 3 times to turn right sort of things, which really, really not okay. I don't think it was emulation because like I was moving fine in the other direction when I was on foot. It was literally only when I got into the tank. I don't know what was going on there. But even besides that, like it didn't control super well and I wasn't enthusiastic about playing it anymore. So that one's a shame, but it is what it is. I won't shed a tear for it. Yeah, so that's all of my, and by extension, our retirements. Paula, do you want to jump in and tell us about what you've been playing?
Yeah, give me a second to just open up the agenda again. Well, I've been. There's so much I've been playing. Yeah, of course. So I've been covered in homework, and I swear my life has been reduced to databases, and everything is a database, and I hate it. But that aside, I've been playing 2 games right now because homework. And that one, first of all, Guardian Tales, Choker. And I've been trying to make some progress with the story. And I have to say it is pretty fun because like everyone just got resized to the size of an ant, literally. And the current world or stage that I'm at is the inn where our characters like pretty much go to rest and have fun and eat and whatnot. And we have to like walk through the tables, try not to be squashed by the innkeeper because she thinks we are like pesky insects on the table. And there's a war between the gnomes that inhabit the inn and the ants. So obviously I have to squash some ants in the meantime, like just to get to the ferry that turns that into ant-sized characters and kick their butt and try to have them return us to our current, like to our former type. The storyline, like so far, is fun, cute, like nothing groundbreaking really, but it's enough to just get me through the game and have me play some stages. And I've also been trying to make some more progress on the tower section of the game, where you pretty much like climb a tower where you have to either solve a puzzle like on a level or just kill everything outside on another level. Some of the puzzles are pretty stupid. Like there's one specific kind of puzzle that I really dislike, where you have to press a button to lower some barriers, and then you have a limited amount of time to get through all of the barriers. So they put like obstacles like disappearing ghost or appearing ghost, and they put like spiky stuff, so the spiky moving objects, so you have to avoid them if you want to make it in time, pretty much. And for some reason I always make it like just in the nick of time after like 3 or so attempts at the very least, and it drives me nuts. I really don't like that kind of stage. The other puzzles, like they're some very smartly designed block puzzles that I really like, but racing against the clock is not my thing ever. Like I don't like that. That being said, we've started another banner on the Guardian Tales universe. On this one, I'm trying to get what is essentially Team Rocket, which is the Mad Panda trio, which are a trio of villains that try to get in the way of the heroes and always fail. So yeah, Team Rocket, they're pretty ridiculous too. And if you see like the designs of the Mad Panda trio, yeah, it is heavily inspired on Team Rocket. To the point where the female character is a redhead with very long hair. So yeah. And the panda is useless as Meowth. Like Meowth doesn't know how to fight because he learned how to talk, so he didn't learn how to fight because reasons inside the Pokemon universe. And the panda is all tag and no, all bark and no bite, pretty much.
No
so
bite, yeah.
Yeah. And that would be it for Guardian Tales. For the other game that I'm playing, that is a fan-made game that is currently on alpha. is Pokewilds. It is an open world 2D Pokemon adventure. Where you start like on a beach with nothing, and you very much have to befriend Pokemon, build a shelter, and try to explore the world around you. There isn't like really a story. It is completely up to you on what you do. If you want to build a beautiful house and a farm with all Spearows or whatever. But I like to explore, so I got myself a Ponyta, which allows you to jump up and down ledges. And I got myself some Pokemon that can dig or cut trees or smash rocks, so I can explore more of the world. I'm also trying to.
Sorry, go on.
What?
No, sorry, go ahead. Sorry, I was just going to say it looks like a weird sort of Gen 2 Pokemon Minecrafty mashup. There's so many people just making their own random shit in this.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm kind of about it.
That is exactly what it is.
Huh.
And I would recommend anyone who's interested in the game, but just like wants to like watch what this is about without playing it or before playing it, go watch Point Crow's video on Pokewilds, because the guy made himself a nemesis that is an Ariados, because if you steal eggs from a Pokemon, of course the Pokemon is gonna chase after you. Or if you try to talk to an aggressive Pokemon, the Pokemon is gonna go after you. If you've talked to a friendly Pokemon, you can just add them to your party, but you still have that 6 Pokemon limit on your party. But you can just leave them like roaming around your house or on a pen or whatever. So it's not like you are gonna lose your Pokemon forever if you just leave them alone. They stay in the vicinity, so that's not really a problem. You actually found the Cinnabar Mansion and unveil a little bit of story, which I'm not gonna spoil. I haven't found the Cinnabar Mansion, which is kind of sad because I really want to go there. But I've been exploring a snowy place, and yeah, pretty much grassy and snowy places. I haven't got to like deserts, or like I haven't got a Pokemon with surf, so I can't go into the water yet. But every Pokemon has not every Pokemon has it. Like most Pokemon have a unique move which allows you to interact with the world. For example, the matchup you start with has the move build, which allows you to build a base given you have the materials. If you use Pokemon with cut, what happened?
It's just, I love that 1, the starting Pokemon is your matchup, and 2, that's your builder. Yep. I'm just imagining a matchup in a hard hat, just like laying bricks, and I love it.
Yeah. I didn't think about that. It is lovely. You also have access to Pokemon with cut, which allows you to cut trees or like grass, small trees or trees, depending on the level of the Pokemon. And I was lucky enough to get a jump bluff, which was friendly, so I didn't have to fight it to get it. And I can cut my way through pretty much everything. You could get, for example, a Pokemon with dig, which is, for example, Swine Up, and you can dig and get like sand, clay, ice, or whatever materials that you can get that way. And the other example that I want to give is that if you get a Ponyta, you can just ride on the Ponyta, and if it is nighttime, the Ponyta will just illuminate the space around it, because it is a fire time and it has flames, which is very nice when you want to explore the world. And I feel like this game has a lot of potential, really, depending on, like right now there's I don't know if it's a small community or a large community. There's a community that really likes the game and does a lot of stuff with it and tries to give feedback to see what else can be added. Um, and even if the game isn't quite finished, still there's a lot to do in it, which is fine. I don't think I will be. I don't know if I will be playing a lot of this because there's not really an end game to be had, or at least not that I've seen yet. And I still need like that little drive to get me to play the game, like in Slime Rancher, where you have to find the notes of the previous rancher. Games like Minecraft just aren't my thing usually. But Pokewilds is fun enough for now. Well, I still need to have time to play longer games or story focused games, so it will have to do right now. So, who of you want to jump in next?
I think we've heard too much of my voice, Alex. Why don't you jump in?
Sure, I'll take it away here. I'm still on my Lord of the Rings kick because it'll never end. But I played more of Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor. I think I'm pretty far through it now, actually. I'm probably close to the end. I've just been sort of blasting through it. Again, it's just very fun. Like, I think I've done most of the like sword and dagger and like bow combat trial thingies that they do, which they give you a really good incentive to do them, considering that you can get like just upgrade money to buy like better like skill pathways for it. I do like how, at first when I started, I was a little bit like, I don't know if I like how they've like gated some of your progression through like doing things in the game. But then I'm also like, I mean, I guess that's kind of the point. Like the game wants you to play the game. So like they lock ability upgrades through like the power level that you have. And so you can increase your power level by engaging with the like Sauron's army, concept and like playing through struggles and stuff and, going and messing up captains and whatnot. And like, that's just really, really fun. And I do like the kind of gradual increasing of your power as you're going through it. Because I do feel like they do it in a way, I don't know. I like that I get to choose the ones that I really want because it's like really allowing me to kind of like decide my kind of play style. You do kind of realize like the game, I think, does a really good job of introducing varied enemy types that force you to change up your play style. Because again, I think it even does this maybe a bit better than Arkham did, because Arkham, let's be honest, it often just was like you're beating the shit out of a bunch of dudes. Here's hit your execution. Beat the shit out of a bunch of dudes. Here's your execution. Oh, that guy has a knife. Use your back cape. Okay, keep going. Like it was like very sort of simple in that sense.
By the numbers, yeah.
Yeah, if you try that in this game, you get fucked. Because like they're really be like, nah, you got a guy with a throwing spear over there. That guy's shooting you up here. This dude has 2 swords, so you're fucked. That guy with the shield, he's just gonna bounce you off of him, so you can't go over him. Like, you got to mix up your tactics, man. Shoot some guys with your bow when you have focus. Peel off and go hit that guy with the throwing spear. Like, do a stun on this guy to build up your combo. Like, it just feels more interesting. And the game is at its least interesting when they get you to do situations like, for instance, I remember one of the combat ones was just like, defeat 50 Uruks. And they're all pretty simple Uruks because they want you to be able to get like a combo run of 100. And that was kind of mindless because you're like, well, I'm really just hitting the X button and waiting for the Y to hit up, and then I'm smashing in executions. At that point, it's like, now luckily those are far and few between. That's not like a common thing in the game. It's just, it is a moment where you're like, oh, okay, this game as a whole is much better than when you try to just isolate little moments of it, which I think is a kind of a testament to its systems. Like, its systems work best when you can use them all, right? And fortunately, that is the vast majority of the game. So that's not like a big deal, but it is just interesting when you come down to it and you're like, oh yeah, the individual parts of this are well made, but they're not that much fun. What's actually fun is the mixing of them together to create really unique, fun things. Like being able to fucking... And again, this is, I think, where in its fantasy setting makes it so much fun, because you can just do whatever the fuck you want. And like the fact that I can have like a bow where I can aim the bow, shoot it, and immediately transport over to that enemy, buy an upgrade where it will kill them immediately. Like, holy fuck, I'm shooting all over the battlefield, setting up like stealth kills and like going through to the point where you can be like, you get to the end and you just stealth kill one of their captains or you brutalize them, which that's another cool thing, right? Like, again, I compare it to Batman a lot because, Batman is the closest thing to this game, frankly. Like, this game is Arkham City, but Lord of the Rings. But the fact that Batman can't kill, right? Despite the fact that he kills a lot of motherfuckers in that game. Like, I refuse to believe those people don't die. Like, you see him come down
Arkham Knight was my
legs.
favorite. It's like, they're special non-lethal rockets that the car's firing.
Yeah. They're drones. Don't worry about it. It's just machinery.
Those people you ran over, they're just really badly injured.
It's the classic, like, Saturday morning cartoon thing where all the villains have robots because you can blow up robots and no one cares.
Yep.
But what if they're sentient, though? Anyway, it's just like, I love it because you're like, in this game, it's like, no. Talion drops down and he just fucking like knifes a guy in the throat and like slices his head off and then like rips legs off and he's like, going nuts. And you're just like, holy shit, this guy's fucking crazy. So yeah, it's really, really fun. And I'm liking it a lot again. And it's reminding me of one thing about it that is interesting is like the character design. It's like there was that time, where like characters were made big, if you know what I mean, like in terms of their design, and like everybody looks like they're a little too girthy in this game. Like everyone's
an inverted triangle.
Yeah, they're very like Gears of War, where they're like, we are men, and you're just like, you look kind of weird. Like I get it, you're tough dudes, but like it's a little off. Like the fact that Celebrimbor looks normal, because he's an elf, and so the elves are allowed to be, like thinner, but like the men, because they're hearty, they must be big beefy dudes. It's also weird because you're a ranger, so like it wouldn't really make anyway. It just doesn't really make sense that he's like super overly buff, because like his whole point is that he travels long distances,
managing those kinds of calories.
Right. Yeah,
but like it is also somebody who's saved from death by being bound with the spirit, and
exactly.
That's your problem.
Right? No, I know. It's just, I always found it funny because I'm just like, that design style, it's just, I don't know. They look weird. They look Cro-Magnon,
Yeah, I get
that. But anyway, different time. I'm also playing Castlevania Order of Ecclesia. I have not gotten any further.
Boo.
I'll get there eventually. It's great though. It's great. But that's it. What I did pick up though, there's a Lord of the Rings Tactics game on the PSP.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually pretty good.
Yeah?
It's hard as fuck, I have to say, actually. It is genuinely, you have to be genuinely tactical in this game. To the point where, like, so it looks really good, which is kind of wild. And the way it works, so here's what's interesting, because when we talked about the Third Age, right? This was made in the time, it's 2005. So it was still made in the time where they were using the movies in the games, right? And so they would use just like movie footage to kind of be like the cutscenes for the game. But it actually looks great on the Vita because, again, it's a small screen, it's a pretty screen. The movie clips actually look good. Like, they look as good as any, like, YouTube video would. You know what I mean? Like, it's no 4K shit, but, like, it looks good. It doesn't look like compressed garbage like it did on the GameCube. So I actually think, I'm like, oh, this actually works better here. I still think it's lazy as fuck, and it's clearly because they didn't want to pay a company to make any kind of cutscenes for their game, because they're like, no, just use the fucking video. What do you think this is? We're not giving you a lot of money for this shit. Good luck, EA. Like that's a lot of what it feels like, because that's what's going down. Tactically, it is interesting because there's a lot of stuff that I see in my like the tabletop game that I'm playing. There's a lot of those mechanics within this game as well, which is kind of interesting because like like tactically, when you think about it, really, like strategy battle games are basically tabletop games. In terms of how their movements work, right? Like you have like, your move phase, your combat phase, though obviously there's like shoot phases that are added into tabletop games as well. But the way it works is like you have like a cohort of basically 6 heroes that you're using. Actually, maybe it's 8 heroes. Yeah, it's 8. You have Aragorn, Gimli, Legolas, Gandalf, Sam, and Frodo. I don't know. Merry and Pippin, I guess. Sorry. I think maybe you can get them like some heroes you'll get as just like extras when you're playing a level. but those 8 are the ones that are, I think, just track throughout the game. And so they kind of level up, and you're given different scenarios as you play. And the scenarios are based on the movies. But what's kind of interesting with this game is that it's not... So, like, it's free-flowing movement, which is really interesting. So you select a character, and then you'll decide on the path that they go. But you can set waypoints. So if you're like, okay, I want my character to move straight, and then I want them to turn here. So you can hit the little the square button, and then it'll turn them. And then you can move a certain amount of distance wherever you have left, so that you can decide their path. Because the way it works is that the enemy and you are going to move simultaneously, but you don't know where your enemy's going to move. And if either of you come into contact, it's considered like a zone of control. So then you're stopped because the enemy has stopped you, and so now you're going to be forced to. You don't necessarily have to fight them. You can use items or whatever, but they're going to stop your movement. And you're given really specific objectives in each mission, which I think is really neat because in a lot of games, like Fire Emblem, for instance, the objective is kill those motherfuckers. You know, like even when there's an objective, it's kill the motherfuckers. Like there's very rarely ever actually an objective besides that, right? Like, you know, I mean, Paula, what do you think? You back me up there? Like most of the time in Fire Emblem, the objective is basically just kill them all, right? Like, I mean, there's occasionally get to another spot, but it's basically kill them all.
Yeah, like really on the older Fire Emblems, such as Genealogy of the Holy War, then you have the usually the objective of defend the castle or get to the fortress or whatever.
Yeah.
But especially in new Fire Emblem, the objective is 99% of the time is just kill them all, which is a little bit uninspired.
Right, and often the objectives too are just like, even if the objectives aren't kill them all, the way to get the objective is to kill them all, right? Like defend the castle, kill them all. You know what I mean? It's like one of those things where it's like, or kill most of them. Whereas in this one, what's really fascinating is the objectives are very, very specific. And if you try to kill them all, you will probably die because you can't. Like I was playing, there was one with the Balrog, and so it tells you the objective where it's like you have to get your fellowship members, except Gandalf, across the bridge, and they have to get past a troll that's there. So there's a troll and 2 goblin archers, but it tells you very specifically you have to be past the troll. They don't really give a shit about the goblin archers. Do whatever you want with them. But the reality is you can't kill that fucking Balrog. Like, I mean, you could, probably, but you're going to die. And if any of your fellowship dies, you're dead. So you have to make a decision of like, okay, who's my like tankier character that I have here? And how am I going to delay the Balrog from coming back? So you have to sacrifice Gandalf, basically. And then you have to decide for yourself, okay, who am I taking out? So I tried it. I died twice. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to try different tactics here. I'm going to keep Gimli back a little bit. And he's going to slice through the cave troll. So I like kill the cave troll, kill the 2 archers, get my weakest person across first, and then slowly retreat so that as the Balrog's coming back after killing Gandalf, my guys don't die as long as I'm just off that bridge before it gets there, and then you win. And then there's other, you know, things where it's like you have to damage this character by a certain amount, or you have to just kill this character. So like I'm doing Amon Hen right now, which is, you know, the breaking of the fellowship. And in that moment, it's like you have Boromir, but really only Frodo can't die, but you have to kill Lurtz. And so it's interesting because in the objectives, they give you these hints as to like, hey, here's maybe some tactics that might help. They're like, by the way, you might want to use Aragorn and Legolas to fuck up Lurtz, and you're probably going to want to use Boromir to keep people away from Frodo. So good luck, right? It's like, shit. And I die the first time every time. Like I get to beat a mission on the first go, except for the very first one because it was also a tutorial one, so you kind of know what to do. But yeah, it's like a surprisingly deep tactics game, and like I've never played a tactics game like this one before, and that could just betray my lack of like experience with tactics games, but I'm like, this is kind of neat. So, and I think there's also like an evil campaign you could do, and they give you optional missions as well, which the optionals are basically ways to buff up your heroes because you're gonna fucking need it, because like there are times where you're just like, shit, my heroes aren't strong enough right now. So like I'm about to do one where I buff up Aragorn and Legolas because I need some help with this Amon Hen one. But yeah, it's a really cool game. I didn't think it would be, you know what I mean? It's like PSP Lord of the Rings game. I don't know, but I'm like, this is actually pretty fun. So yeah, if you like Lord of the Rings, I would actually highly recommend checking this out. Even if you don't like Lord of the Rings, I think you'd find it to be interesting. It's challenging. So you could always lower the difficulty down, but it's like it's the first time playing a tactics game where I'm like, you're actually giving me a challenge, aren't you? And I'm like, okay, I actually have to be tactical here. I can't just be like, well, I'm just going to send all my strong guys right over there. I'm like, no, I have to actually think out this battle in advance. Okay, that's interesting. And the battles are short enough that you don't feel like you're, like when you die, it doesn't feel like you're like, oh, God damn it. I just, like in Fire Emblem, where you feel like you played for an hour just to like get to a certain point. In this case, it doesn't feel like that bad because it's like maybe 20 minutes, right? And even then, you've probably realized when you've lost, so like you could just quit out and then try again. So really, it doesn't feel that like punishing. The one thing I will say, you got to make sure that you buy your skills and your items, because I didn't realize this, but there's like this kind of area at the beginning where you see all your heroes, and you use gold to actually purchase stats and purchase like skills for them, which I didn't realize until getting to this third point. So just make sure you explore if you do decide to play, because you might miss it. Anyway, that's that. I thought you'd be proud of me, Rick. I'm playing a game on the Vita.
I saw it in your hand and my heart soared. I tell you what, I do, on the point of Lord of the Rings PSP games, there's one they made for the Wii called Aragorn's Quest.
Yeah.
Which also got a PSP port because the Wii and the PSP were pretty comparable hardware-wise, which one says a lot, but two makes it an interesting one to maybe go and visit myself as a non-Lord of the Rings person.
Yeah, I've heard it's shite, so I might ignore that one.
Out of the curiosity.
Yeah, that's why I pretty much avoided that one, because I was like a little nervous of it, because I'm just like, but
morbid curiosity.
But yeah, I am sort of morbidly curious, especially because it's just a download away. I'm like, maybe I should just see what it's like. I feel like, in particular, it's probably even worse on the PSP because you've only the one.
Almost definitely.
But
yeah, for
right.
Sure.
It's got to be bad on there. But anyway, that's what I'm doing. So, Rick, what about you? What are you playing, buddy?
Yeah, so it's almost an entirely new slate for me on the playing. One returning is Rocket League. I finally ground my way back into champ after some time in the dark diamond ranks. Been sort of brushing off the rust, and I'm finally back to my competitive best, which is fun. Game's still great. I don't think it's ever going to not be great. I love it. I'm never going to not love it. In terms of the new games, first one, and this is a game that you might recognize from a demo we played a while back, Alex. That's right. Transiruby. Yeah, I think you might have played it as well,
I love this one, yeah.
No, I didn't play this one. But I do remember you talking about it.
And I think you would both like it. So the dev, Skipmore, made Kamiko. This, rather than being a top-down Zelda-esque thing, is a 2D kind of light Metroidvania experience. It's decent. Like Kamiko, it's good but not great, but it's somewhat elevated by the fact that it recognizes its own limitations and is content to work within them. So there are no illusions of being like an Elden Ring beta. It doesn't overextend. It's, slightly linear, relatively straightforward 2D platformer. It's got really appealingly crunchy pixel art. Everything feels fluid. I haven't got any particular problems. Maybe the map could have been better. The map's kind of shit, but I also think that's kind of intentional to encourage you to focus on what you're doing and physically explore what you're doing, because there's a terrain toggle. Even with it on, it gives you just enough detail to kind of work out where you are and what you're doing. But about 90 minutes in, I'm maybe 2 demo lengths through. It's good so far. I like it. It's got a Switch port, which I think it absolutely lends itself well to Switch and portable play. Very much what I wanted and expected from this game so far. Briefly played a bit of a game called Devil Daggers. Friends of the podcast, Uwe and June, are playing this on the Discord. This is a dip in, dip out, super hard FPS experience. So you're playing on a circular grid. One hit and you're dead. It's a case of surviving for as long as you can. And to give you some context, on the kind of difficulty curve you're looking at. The game has one achievement, which you get by surviving for 500 seconds, which is like 8 and a bit minutes. No, 7 and a bit minutes. Having played for about half an hour, my record of surviving is like just shy of 100 seconds. It's pretty hard, but it's very like low poly in its design. It's very, very streamlined. Everything is easy to pass visually. Movement's fluid. The shooting's interesting in that you can fire a constant stream of little daggers, or if you let it hold for a beat, you have like a shotgun blast sort of thing. So there's a degree of challenge to that. You're not just like kiting and bunny hopping and just holding down the button. Sometimes there's perks to like holding and timing a shot kind of thing. You can get this real cheap. And I got it for like £1 a while back. So when they started talking about playing it, I re-downloaded it, jumped into it. It's really, really good. Like, there's not a lot of depth to it, but that's not the point. And it does feel like a really good one to sort of dip in and out of. And I expect that over the coming weeks, maybe months, I probably will dip in and out of it just for 5-10 minutes here or there. Possibly in between my next currently playing, which is Minoria. This is quite a disappointing one so far. So it's by the makers of the Momodora series. It's, I think it's in the same universe, but clearly they wanted to change a few things around, try something new. It's more like a Dark Souls than it is like the Momodora games, in the sense that it's got its own version of Estus flasks. There's a bit of an emphasis on dodging around and managing the space. You can tell the atmosphere and the setting are a little bit more gothic as well. It goes for this kind of weird 3D textureless poly sort of look, and in screenshots looks fucking incredible. Like, I thought it was a hand-drawn art style from the screenshots. In motion it looks pretty amateurish, which is disappointing. Doubly so because the developer does such wonderful pixel art for the Momodora games, and I was relieved to see that there is another Momodora game coming, returning to that kind of style. None of this is to say that Minoria plays badly. Like, it plays well enough. It's a competent side-scrolling Metroidvania kind of thing. It's just a real evident downstep from what that studio is capable of, which is somewhat disappointing. I expect to play it through. I expect to beat it. I expect to have a good time with it, but not a great time, which is what I was hoping for. And that's somewhat the disappointment there. Final game. You're not the only one playing PSP games, Alex. I just restarted Valkyrie Profile Lenneth, which is a remake of the PlayStation original for PSP. Not remake, I suppose, more enhanced port. So I have an existing save file of this that's about an hour and a half in, but I remember I saved it and put it down, didn't come back to it right at the start of the first dungeon where you properly get control. So what I'm doing at the moment is watching a YouTube Let's Play just to catch up to where I've gotten to. I'm watching that on like 1.75 speed. And then I'm going to pick up where I left off. My memory of what little I played of it is that the setting is really rich and dense. Excuse me. The art is really nice. The Norse setting is well realized to the extent that I've seen any of it yet. I have a little bit of history with this series, having played a lot of the sort of spin-off Covenant of the Plume on the Nintendo DS. So I know I'm a fan of that kind of one-face button per party character combat. I'm looking forward to sort of delving into it and getting a better look. Haven't quite decided how I'm going to play it yet in terms of endings. This game is notorious for having a really, really horrible requirements list for getting the true end. I suspect what I will end up doing is just getting the good end and watching a true end playthrough on YouTube sort of thing. But we'll see. I haven't decided yet. That's like the one big playthrough in amongst a few shorter, smaller playthroughs that I've got going on. Yeah, unless you guys have got anything to add on any of those, that's me on playing.
Nah, I got nothing.
I'm getting two nonplussed faces that aren't translating to this format. Shall we jump straight through to our topic in that case?
Yeah, and I think we've actually managed to have a pretty normal amount of time on here for this because we're at like 120-ish. Not bad for us today.
Good time.
So maybe we will just stick to like kind of our favorite games and how we would improve them. So I don't know, Paula, this was kind of your suggestion. So I don't know if maybe you want to start. Maybe we can just like, we can trade off like a game at a time each, maybe I think might be a good way of doing it. Keep a little bit of variety in there.
First of all, like, I proposed the topic because not too long ago I watched a video made by Rhapsody called Fixing My Favorite Game, where he talked about Breath of the Wild and how he loved the game, but he felt like there were like little imperfections or like things that really annoyed people, and that he said, this is my favorite game, but I would like it to be other people's favorite games, and to do that I would fix this, and this. So that is like where I got the inspiration for it. So trying to go into that with that mindset in. First of all, I love Majora's Mask. It is by far my favorite game. But I would like if the Nintendo 64 version and the 3DS version had a child. I have like the best of both worlds, to be honest. So first of all, it sucks the way they redid the bosses for the Nintendo 3DS version, where now they have these huge eye thingies that get exposed once you go on the battle, like go through the battle like a certain amount of time, and it's like, hey, you really don't need to do that, because in the original version you can just have the boss like I guess like hit their weak spot, and then you can just hit them like wherever and just get done with it. Well, here you are limited to that huge eye, and it's like, hey, hit me here. This is my weak spot. And it's like, why would you do that? It is not needed. Like, especially like some of the especially the first boss, you can beat it like in a number of different ways in the first game. But no, you can only hit the giant glowing eye. The other thing that kind of disappointed me was that you don't have the unlimited fast swim with the Sora mask anymore. And that just makes swimming a chore. Like, no pun intended. Sorry, that was horrible.
Yeah.
You said it, not me.
And the last thing would be that you cannot freeze any spot in the water with the ice arrow. You have to freeze specific spots that are shining in the water with the ice arrows. Other than that, I would say the 3DS version has many quality of life improvements that could make it for some superior version, especially if you don't have a lot of time to play it. Unless you use save states. If you can use save states, you can like make up for the you can only save and quit at the all statues that are in the original game. But yeah, I think those are the little things that nag me about Majora's Mask, especially the remake. But I still feel like it is a very solid version, because you can just fast forward to whatever time you want without having to wait an eternity for that quest. You can save at the all statues and have like it be a save, and you can keep playing, which makes a lot of the 3-day quest, especially Anju and Cafe quest, a lot less of a burden. As much as I love those characters, that quest was stupid. And finally, I think those are the two big things that the 3DS video graphics, like, okay, things look a lot nicer, but again, if you're using an emulator, you can just download a texture pack and make it look nicer. That would be for my first game.
Cool. Why don't we swap around and then we'll come back to some of your others.
Yeah.
I just thought
otherwise this is gonna be Paula ranting for like half an hour and then you guys giving.
Yeah, we can keep the discussion flowing.
Yeah.
I like your ideas too, though, and I mean, I think it sounds a little bit like playing Majora's Mask using Neryl's like HD texture pack seems like a nice sort of in between ish from those things, because I'll tell you that game feels pretty new when you play it that way.
It does.
I kind of had a similar. I like the way you looked at it, where it's like making the game better so that more people can like it. I kind of like that sort of take on it, because I was struggling a little bit. I was like, I'm not sure how to go at this, and like one of the ones that I'm still not like. This might be a little unsatisfied, but Mass Effect is like favorite games of all time, and particularly the trilogy. And I think the recent re-release, right, the Mass Effect trilogy re-release, I think is very good. And in fact, it's like kind of all I could really hope for from that thing, in terms of that sense. But this being a like, perfect world imagining, right, where it's not going to happen. The thought for me on this is like, I kind of wish that the game could be even more a single game, right? Like right now, it really feels as though it is a trilogy. And yeah, they brought the first Mass Effect closer to what it feels like to play Mass Effect 2 and 3. But when you start playing Mass Effect 2, and like even on my replay through it, you really do get the sensation that was a new start for the series, right? I mean, like, I don't think this is spoilers, because it's the opening of the game. But if you care at all about hearing anything about Mass Effect, then I guess plug your ears. But at the very start of Mass Effect 2, the whole conceit is that Shepard dies, right? That's the very beginning. And then the whole idea is that Shepard is reconstructed, which is like a really, cheeky gameplay way of being like, remake your character. You know what I mean? Like, that's sort of the idea. And it makes sense within the world that they've done. They actually, like, it's not something that you're like, oh, okay. You're like, well, no, okay, they justify it. And then it has an impact throughout the game. But it does just make it feel like a separate game, right? Which, of course, it should, because, it came on the PlayStation for the first time when it came out, and no one on the PlayStation guy got to play Mass Effect, so it kind of had to be its own game. But if I could make it perfect, I would want to sand off those edges. I wish that really your choices could actually carry over even more impactfully throughout. And I know it's not possible. Like, they did what they could with what they had. But truthfully, I wish, and maybe this is just, the thing we all wish in the end, that you could just fail some stuff more, like in the sense that you complete missions, and some missions have bad outcomes, but I kind of just wish that like you could just lose in that first game and you could not save the world kind of thing in the end of it and have to just play out those consequences as an option. Now, is that realistic? Fuck no. Would that like break a lot of shit? 100%. But I think it would create such a unique experience. And especially if it was like connected through with all of them. So like really my ultimate dream is that like if they were ever allowed to go back and just be given free reign and told like, here are the 3 games and you have all of the content still in there and you can still just play through the game the same way. But now we're going to bring a team on and the team is just going to fill out all of these possible other scenarios to like expand the game and make it this crazy like wider experience. And then if you come back into it, you just have all these fucking possible outcomes that you could hit on. God, that'd be so fucking cool. Again, is it realistic? Is it reasonable? Absolutely not. But it's like, I feel like that's like the goal. You know what I mean? It's like the holy grail of what they're trying to accomplish, and they know they can't quite do it because, again, a game has to limit your choices to a degree because it's all programmed, and that's just what it has to be. But obviously, in their greatest minds, they want to create something where you're truly role-playing and you're truly going through and having this adventure. And, anyway, That's what I want. That's what I would just love for Mass Effect, because it's just such a good game, and I wish that it could be even more like wide open and huge and just like expansive for people to get lost in and just explore this world, which again, I think they kind of tried to do in Andromeda, which we all know how that went. So, that is what it is. But Rick, what about you?
So my first pick is a game that I think is pretty close to perfect for what it does, which is Valhalla, or VA11 Hall A, the cyberpunk bartending game. Two things. One, super unrealistic. One, I think, marginally realistic. My unrealistic wish is that you had a little bit more input in terms of how the main character, Jill, responds to people. The beauty of the game in a lot of respects is that you are a fly on the wall, listening to these people's stories, hearing about the world around them as told through what they talk about at the bar in this little corner of the universe that you call home. You have some limited input into how those conversations go based on the drinks you make for those characters. I would love to have some dialogue choices in there to be able to shape the direction that those conversations go in a little bit more. The other thing I think would be pretty cool is at the start of each night, you pick what songs are in the jukebox. Just the same as the way that you put people's drinks together and what drink you choose to give them has implications. I think it'd be really cool if there was some way to tie in music choices, particularly because some of the characters are already musically minded in that game. I think that'd be really cool. I think, again, a lot of it's... I suppose there are almost two different ways of approaching this. The way of, like, what would be the dream scenario, and the other way of, like, what could genuinely be accomplished. And I think maybe that's one that we look at another way. That'd be another interesting way to look at that lens, even though we're kind of sort of taking them both in turn. That's me. Paula, what's your next game?
My next game would be Steins Gate, the original visual novel. Not a Steins Gate Elite, because I have no idea what changes have been made to the story and the characters, or like the overall structure of the game. I love Steins Gate. I really do, with all my soul. But it is very difficult to recommend a game for someone who is coming from watching the anime, because first of all, it really takes a long while to get going, the story especially. And second of all, and this is like the more aggravating one, getting the true ending is a pain in the ass. Like, if you want to get any other ending, it is pretty straightforward. Just don't undo the thing you are about to undo to get to the true ending. The thing is that to get the true ending, you have to set up or like activate, prior to this, 5 flags were called. With those 5 flags activated, given that you did like a number of actions that got to you like activating that flag, try to God, you didn't get the back one. Like, you didn't get a back on that one. On the, I think was the 4th one or 5th one that it can get backed. Then you can get the true ending of the game. And it is really a shame, because usually visual novels are really accessible in terms of you don't really have to, maybe you usually are able to tell if you're in the doing things well, so you can get to the true ending, or like there's usually some kind of thing in game that tells you, hey, you're on this path, or hey, you activated the things that you needed. In Steins Gate, you don't have that. Hey, you activated the things that you needed after you finished your 30 or so hour playthrough, which kind of sucks. So that is the thing. If by some way there's like a thing that tells you, hey, you activated a flag, or like any indicator that your save file is not glitch and you can't get the thing, or like, I don't know, if there's an easier way for you to get the final ending of the mode, then I would be able to recommend the Steins Gate more freely. And if the beginning of the game didn't take so long to set everything up, that, to be honest, that is a little bit more unreasonable than having an easier obtainable final ending. Mainly because it has to set up a lot of stuff that will be important later. So it is more difficult to cut content up there. But if that one last ending was easier to get to, I would be able to recommend the game so much more easily. And that's and that was kind of fixed on the Steins Gate 0, where getting each of the endings is very easy, even without a guide, which I did get all the endings without a guide. But the thing with the Steins Gate 0 is that it is very convoluted because all of the, let's say, everything is happening kind of like all the routes happen kind of like at the same time, and you have to make a lot of connections. So in that sense, it's a little bit less accessible than having Steins Gate having like one overarching narrative and an overarching branch of narrative, and it just like branches off like at the very end of each branch of the narrative. Steins Gate 0 is convoluted as fuck, and you really have to keep note of what is going on in each route to have like the full picture of it.
You're really making not
that
selling
is my
this
little.
game. You're making me scared.
I really love it. I really do. But I played many visual novels in my life, and the one that is the less accessible is Steins Gate, which breaks my heart because I want more people that love the anime to experience the visual novel, which they cannot do without a fucking guide. This is 100% a guide game. If you want to play with a guide or just watch a play on YouTube. Sorry, I love this game, but I have to say that like it's not for everyone.
Yeah, it sounded scary now. I'm like, oh man, I was thinking about this, but I'm like, there's a lot going on in this game from the sounds of it. Whew.
Yeah, Steins Gate Elite, I'm sure, is a lot more streamlined because that's the one that got a Switch port, and that's the one that is supposed to be like Steins Gate again, but following more like the art style or like the art direction of the anime. And I think it is easier in that regard. Is original Steins Gate, sorry, but no.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense then because I've got that version that you're talking about, the Elite one. I forgot that they have so many different kinds. Cool. Well then, shall I
get your second one through? Yes, absolutely.
Shall I get in on this? I picked Knights of the Old Republic 2, the Sith Lords, because this to me is the epitome of like what Rick talked about, where it's like so close to being perfect, you know, but it's just it wasn't fucking finished. And I know that there's the return content mod, which is awesome and like that's great stuff. But my true wish, and we got close to this, right? Like fucking Aspire said that they're, you know, put it on Switch with restoring all that old stuff, and then the fucking game had a game-ending bug in it, which like. Anyway,
did they not fix that? Surely that got fixed.
No, I don't think it's fixed yet. I think they said they're fixing it, and I don't think they have because they said they're going to release that content. I don't know when that's coming out, maybe December or something. But because remember, this is the company they were working on the
remake, and then they got kicked off it.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure they came and they looked at what they did and were like, "Fuck no, you're not making this game." And I'm like, thank God they did that because this company, all they've ever done is ports, and not very well. Like, what? You know, like how do you? Knights of the Old. Oh, fucking Jesus! It's like that game shouldn't be. I know porting is difficult. I'm not saying like I know how to do it, but come on. If your whole company's job is porting games, you'd think you should be at least pretty good at it, right? Like, it's not even like you can say, oh, it was just the company itself and they were working on the game and they just had some B team who just, you know, tried to port it and it was like, you know, like I can kind of understand that. But if it's if that's your whole thing, get it right. Anyway, all that being said, as nice as it is that there are mods for this, I would just, because like, again, we know that is still an extremely inaccessible way of doing it, right? There are only some people who can engage with mods and make that shit work. And while it's not super complicated, it's still a level of remove. And I feel like so many people have missed out on one of the like deepest Star Wars and most like complex Star Wars stories out there. And I would love, so like as excited as I am that Knights of the Old Republic is getting a remake, this is the one that deserves it more even. So if that first one goes well, for the love of God, please, this one too. But for the original game, I would love it if they could go back, do that like what they're kind of planning on, but just give me a better team to restore that content to the game and polish it out too. Because I do think that I don't think necessarily just adding everything is like the best way of going, right? Like I do think a little bit of editorial kind of content on this would be good, but you know, massaging that through, giving it a little bit of a texture update, and just making sure that it's all back in there so that people can experience it how it's meant to be. Because I think as is now, it's good, but you do feel like you're missing some stuff. And again, I just want everyone to be able to play it without having to, you know, go on fucking, you know, PC and figure out how to do modding, which again is not that complicated, but it is for the layperson, right? So
it's enough of a faff. Yeah,
exactly, right? I mean, it even sort of stops me sometimes because I remember I played it recently and I did it on my Xbox because I was like, well, I want to play on my big TV. I don't want to fuck around with mods right now. You know what I mean? Like I was like, I already own the game, so I don't really want to go fucking mess with it. I just want my game to be patched and perfect again. So anyway, that's mine there. I don't know. Should we do what do we think?
I think I've got like 4 more. Paula's got 3 more. I think we quick fire the rest of them. Mine are pretty quick anyway, to be fair. So my next one is Transformers Devastation, the Platinum, like G1 Transformers love letter. I just want more. Like it literally, like I want this game to be twice the length. A complete playthrough of this is like about the 6-hour mark. They can get 12 hours of Bayonetta. They can fucking well find 6 more hours of G1 Transformers content. Please and thank you. That's it. Paula. Nice. No spoilers, please, on the next one, because I still need to play it.
Yeah, please, no spoilers.
I'll do my best. For Danganronpa B3 Killing Harmony, the one thing that I would say got this shit from the game is that you know how you have Monoguma, right?
Yes.
Pretty much the mascot of the first game and the series as a whole. Well, let's say you have 5 more of those, and their antics aren't just like as fun, and some of them are like a little bit too weird even for my taste. I will cut those from the game.
Okay.
And the game would be better for it.
Interesting.
That's it.
Okay. My next one is The Matrix Path of Neo for PS2. I would love this just to have. I suppose this isn't fixing the game. I just want this game to be ported, and I would quite like it to have modern controls with the port. Because although I had an exceptionally good time when I played this game, and I think we talked about this in relation to another topic a few weeks ago, I know for a fact if I went back and played this game, I would have some issues or idiosyncrasies with the setup. I would just quite like those to be updated and be able to play it again. I feel like that's a bit of a cop out, but, you know, in the context. Yeah, anyway. Yes, Paula, next one. And I think I actually already know what you're about to say for this one. Is it going to be rebalancing the Minotaur?
Not especially the Minotaur, but it's going to be like rebalancing a little bit the overall difficulty curve. The Minotaur is the one thing that I know keeps a lot of first-time players from finishing the game.
My hand over here.
and for the people listening, like we jumped to the lead on this. This is Shin Megami Tensei 4 for the 3DS, aka one of the best RPGs ever made.
Yeah, I think the Minotaur is one thing that keeps the players away from the game. But another thing that doesn't necessarily keep people away from the game, but makes the game like make people play on one way over the others, is how the physical gun and magic systems work. Because I think if you see the numbers like behind the scenes, each point you give to strength, I don't remember if it's like 1 or 1.5 X damage you do. Each magic point you give to a character translate into 2.5 more damage that you do. But for some insane reason that I can't begin to comprehend, I think it is what are the other stats? What is dexterity? It's probably by dexterity, but don't quote me on this one. For each point you raise on dexterity, it is 3 more times that your gun attacks to. Like, for each point you add to your dexterity, you do 3 more points of damage on gun attacks. Which makes the game like, I didn't know this one, so I went with a magic build when I played the game. But why would you go with a physical build when you get like the press turn system? You want to exploit the enemy's weaknesses, so you rarely go for a physical. But then you completely snap the difficulty of the game you have with if you discover the gun trick, because you can give your gun like an element, and then your other demons get the other elements, and you pretty much snap the game in half. I only know this because a friend did it. And he said, this is one of the easiest games I ever played because I exploited the hell out of it. Which isn't like what the developers maybe intended to do. I think the 3 times damage on the gun was a coding mistake. Like, it wasn't intended to happen. But that would be the other thing that I will like maybe tone it down to, so it's like the same as the magic, so it is more interchangeable and you don't snap the difficulty of the game in half with it. But yeah, the big thing would be the miniature, because as much as I did have problems with the miniature, but I did persevere. I know that a lot of people that turn their copies into Zmart. I mean Zmart. I don't know. I know for a fact that 10 out of 10 people that turn in their copies of HLTB stop playing because of the miniature.
I think it's the Minotaur is not necessarily the problem. The problem is that they gave you an ally who specifically is spamming his strength, his elemental strength.
That could be it too. But
I think you fix Jonathan, you actually don't need to fix the Minotaur, personally. Like, I remember clearing the Minotaur on my first try precisely because Jonathan didn't throw out any agi.
That could be it. Can you get Isabel for the Minotaur fight?
I don't think so.
Because I don't remember if I got her or Jonathan, but I clearly didn't get Walter because I don't remember my ally spamming Agi against the Minotaur. It was because I didn't know how to play at that point.
And I think the point is like that there's even a chance that essentially the tutorial dungeon can have your ally characters working so horrifically badly against you. That just shouldn't be a thing. In later dungeons, maybe it's a challenge you have to work around, but the idea that that's a thing in dungeon number 1.
Yeah, it's a stupid idea for the first section. It's like a way to alienate every player, but anyway.
A lot of trauma to unpack there. I've got 2 quick ones, yeah. So, first of them, arguably a perfect game already, 13 Sentinels Aegis Rip. Arguably no room whatsoever for improvement. If you put a gun to my head, I would say that you could do it with
yeah, I think that's pretty fair.
I think one, like, the character upgrade system, really, really well done. Lots of flexibility, lots of options to sort of take those paths in the directions you want them and tweak your character builds in a number of different complementary ways. I don't think the enemies actually do enough to demand that from you. I think there should have been a hard cap on how many sentry guns you could put out, because they absolutely break the game.
They fucking do, don't they? Yeah, man. Those sentry guns.
Yep.
They go.
Yeah,
And
they just mow fuckers down.
The game goes.
Literally. And finally, what I would have really enjoyed, when you complete the game, there is like an endless combat mode where you can just go like up to level 999 combat, but there's no incentive to do so. I'd love it if there were just, some dumb little gaijin side conversations, or little concepts, something to encourage you to engage with that. In combination with the other stuff, I think that would be really, really perfect. Last game, Dissidia 012 Final Fantasy.
A little thing.
Yeah,
definitely. If there was like any kind of extra content that you unlock with the extra battles, or with the endless battle mode, you can bet your ass that I will be still there trying to trying to fight all the battles just for the extra content.
Yeah, but it'd be fun.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to talk about extra content, Dissidia is the king of extra content. They could have given it a different name, but I'm not going to use that as my thing. What I would have quite liked is maybe a slightly rejigged single-player campaign, because they do this weird sort of chessboard thing where you're essentially sort of moving your way around into different fights, and you buy items specifically to use on the chessboard to chain combat encounters together. I just think there was a better way to do it. And maybe part of that could have been they give you this fun sort of quasi-overworld to explore in the 012 prequel campaign. And I would have liked that, one, to be incorporated more into how you select the battles, and two, maybe then to be incorporated more again into the original campaign, which is a part of 012. I think it's also worth saying a lot of these games I just want to see again on modern consoles. Like Dissidia NT was dog tier. Like, it just wasn't good. 3-on-3 battles, not the way to go with that. There was something elegant and streamlined and finely tuned about the original Dissidia and Dissidia 012, and that was lost. And I would just love to see those, but prettier. But that's a different topic. Anyway, are there any others that we want to sort of chime in on before we move on to?
I say we
next
move along. We just move
In which case, let's crack
I
on
gotta
with.
go cook a soup. How long to beat the game? I gotta go cook a soup. It's legit. I do. I gotta put it on the burner. They gotta simmer for hours.
Yeah.
It's winter. I'm in soup mode now. Souping it up. Paula, while you find the game that we're playing, we'll talk soup. But seriously,
let it be.
I'm a cereal soup not enjoyer. I'm not a fan of soup. Really?
You just gotta get the right soup. I'm telling you, man, a potato and leek soup with prosciutto, so fucking good. It's like this hearty, just like I'm making vegetable soups though, and then some hearty hamburger soup. That's my soups for the week.
Hang on, hamburger soup.
Yeah, it's like
what is that?
It's just, I mean, hamburger is just it just means ground beef, right? It's not like actual.
It's
hamburger.
Beef soup. It's not hamburger soup.
Well, they call it hamburger soup because it has very much the flavor of like a hamburger as you would eat.
So beef.
Yes, exactly. But we call it hamburger soup. It's just fun. I gotta say, in here in Canada though, a lot of people refer to ground beef as hamburger, like regardless of. Like, yeah, so like it's just that's just a thing. Like they'll talk about like as hamburger in a lot of recipes and stuff. I don't know if it's this big thing other places. I've sort of found it weird because I'm like, it's ground beef, but they're like hamburger. Okay.
Why use one syllable when you can use three?
Yeah, and I guess hamburger is just so known. Anyway, this is not interesting. But Paula, what are we playing?
This week on how long?
I got the game.
How long?
The Cat Lady.
The Cat Lady. I've never heard of this game.
The Cat Lady.
Cat Lady. She's a cat lady.
As for the
what platform? Oh, maybe that's part of the question. I'll wait.
I'm trying to just Okay, how many people have given the lowest score to this game, and what the low? No, those are two questions.
Too many.
Okay.
They are two questions.
Okay, what's the lowest score this game has?
The lowest score. Okay, I can work with that. It seems as though it's a well-received game. Or is it?
Is it? Hang on. Let me grab the art. Don't you try and hustle me, boy. Is it this one, Paula? Is this the right thingamajig? Hang
on. Let me see.
When it loads up.
Yeah, that one.
That one. Okay. I've literally never heard of this.
And same. I just found that it was like, oh, never
this kind of looks neat.
So it looks fun. Yep.
Yeah, I think I want to try this. Let me see here. If it's horror. Okay, I'm gonna go.
I mean, it's reviewed well enough on Steam. Ooh, looks very low budget, very jank. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, remember we are using the ratings on how long to beat. So.
Yes, yeah, of course. That's specifically why I'm on Steam, so I don't accidentally ruin the game for myself.
Yeah, I think that's good enough. I don't know. I'm a little torn on this one.
I'm properly stabbing in the dark. Yeah.
I'm gonna do what Rick hates. All right, there we go.
Lots of half hours, is it? Great.
Maybe.
Yay.
Maybe not.
Woo. Fantastic.
You will never know.
Well, I will in 30 seconds time.
So, big energy. Oh my god! I just read your tag.
You just got that.
You just got it now. Oh damn! 2 years on.
I know the joke's subtle, but
I
that's
got it before, but I just read it because my brain wasn't automatic, and it was like, I got it. Okay,
that's very funny.
So. Rick says 8 hours. Alex says 8 hours and a half.
Oh, okay.
And the correct answer is 8 hours.
Oh, dang it. All right.
Ooh, okay.
I'll switch up our points here. That's 1 for Rick. All right.
Alex says 9.5 hours. And Rick says 10 hours. And the winner for this round is Alex with 9.5 hours.
Hey! It didn't fuck me this time.
Oh.
Yay!
Let's see if your lag doesn't run out.
Yeah.
Let's say.
I'm not feeling.
Okay, Rick says 12 hours and Alex says 11.5 hours. Sadly, half hours didn't cut it this time. Since Rick is the winner, because the game is 12.5 hours.
Oh, my half hours. I was off by an hour, but the halves were good.
Yep. And finally, for the bonus question, both of you said, 30% is pretty much 3 out of 10. And both of you
Oh, no way. Give us a new bonus round. We're not doing that. No way we're tying on the bonus. No, absolutely not. New one. Give us a new category. I'll tie on the times. We're not tying on the bonus.
We've definitely tied on the bonus before. It's definitely a thing that's happened.
Yeah, no. Give us a new thing. What do you want, Paula? Something new. I'd rather lose than tie on this one. If I lose if I lose this, I'm fine with that. But I don't want to tie.
What does Rick say? Do you want to tie this one, or do you want an extra?
I've already conceded enough letting this game rumble on. Whatever, we'll re-roll the bonus. I don't mind.
I feel like it's more fun because I feel like tying on the times. That feels fine to me because whatever that happens. But the bonus, it's like
we definitely tied on the bonus before, and you are fine with it. It's definitely happened.
Oh, I know. I think I was fine with it because I was close to winning. I can't win, regardless. I'm in the losing area here. Even if I get 2 points here, I'm not beating Rick at this point. But
if you get 2 points, it's still on the cards. If we tie it, it's impossible.
Oh, well. Okay, if you want to tie, that's fine. But we don't have to. I want.
I've already said I'll do another one. I've already said I'll do it.
Okay.
Regardless,
how many people have finished this game?
Oh, okay. I like that. How many people have finished this game? So that's like how many completions in total?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one because we can't tie this one. There's no way we'll tie this one. One of us has to get this.
Don't tempt fate. Don't say that.
I swear, guys, if you tie this, I'm not sure, but I'm gonna.
So, because neither of us have heard of this one.
I've got no bead on this.
Okay, I had a number that kind of like popped into my head, and it's just kind of random. But I'm gonna say, yeah, I'm gonna go for this.
What number are you gonna say?
For a second, I thought
you think I was gonna say that out loud, Rick?
Say the number. I'm reading it again.
Actually, hold on. I'm gonna price is right my number because we haven't read them out yet. I'm just worried about to give you an idea, it was a kind of a round number first, and I'm a little nervous of doing something like that.
If that fucks you over, Alex, I'm gonna laugh so hard.
If it fucks me over, I'll be very sad, but that's fine. Like, if I got it right and then I changed it, I'll be very upset, but it's whatever. What do you think, Rick?
I think a lot of things. I think, like, I'm seeing a number of reviews on Steam, but I'm thinking it can't possibly be that high on how long to beat. So,
yeah, I guess checking the Steam reviews would have been smart. Didn't think to do that, but that's fine. What's your context?
Come on, Rick.
Hang on.
Come on, buddy. What you got?
Oh, I don't know.
Wanna share with the class?
I like that. Fuck. Yeah, come on, buddy.
All right.
Okie dokie. So, Alex says 599.
Yeah.
And Rick says 577. The winner is Rick because the amount of people that have completed this game and how long to beat is 543.
Wow. You were close, dude.
Okay.
Shit. I thought it was in like the 600s.
So you said 600 and then you're like, that's one too
so
many.
I guess it didn't matter. Well, I was worried that like sometimes if we hit like, I don't know, I didn't want you to hit like a round number or something. I'm happier with this. I prefer that you win than we tie this because I don't want to tie that tiebreaker. It just feels too.
The thing is, there's like 3,500 Steam reviews, and I didn't think this game was that big. And I was like, how do you square this circle?
That makes sense though, because like there's never that like how long to beat is always a much smaller fraction of like the amount of players who've done it, right? Because like not everyone.
Which is where I ended up like ratcheting that number way down, but like. How did this game get that big and just not register on my radar like at all?
There's so many games out there though, right?
Like that's true, but nevertheless,
when you just think about the amount,
it does look interesting. I am kind of tempted now.
Yeah,
like
I mean, I'm just not buying any more games for the rest of the year. Which you should all be proud of me. I haven't bought a single new game in like over a month. I haven't bought one since like August actually. But I've been buying Warhammer. So, really, I've probably spent more money.
But still be proud of me.
But still no video games.
That's true. Yeah. That reminds me. In fact, do you know what? That can wait. We don't need to talk about that on the recording. Should we wrap this up?
We should. Let us wrap it up. Thank you, everyone. So the standings now, it's Paula and I are tied 14-14. And Rick is at 22. So I guess it's over basically because we can't come at you anymore. Like we're basically
correct.
there.
But there's second and third place to play for, and that'll be the guest episode next week.
True. Yeah. So that's fine. Oh yeah, there's a guest next week. No, who knows who?
And then that I think we've got pre-recorded the week after that.
Rick, you spilled the beans.
Yeah.
That will give me some time to decide what I'm going to make you two play.
Exactly. All right, that's it. Toodaloo, folks.
Cheerio, bye.
Bye.